Hi everyone, George Farmer here, content creator for Tropica Aquarium Plants, and this is our third episode of Tropica Live. I'm so excited to be here. I hope you guys are too. Okay, so without further ado, let's introduce our very special guest and dear friend of mine, Tai Strietman. Come on, Tai. So Tai is a freshwater biologist and author. As I said, dear friend of mine. We've known each other quite a few years now.
Since like 2014, 2015 or so.
Yeah. And I'm just so excited to be here with you. How have you enjoyed your Tropica experience so far?
It's been amazing. It's been a real privilege to be here, and it's been so exciting to see how everything works and meet the team.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, it was like yesterday we were dancing through soil plants in the greenhouse.
Dancing?
Yeah, well, I think there was a skip in your step.
Yeah,
and it was really fantastic. So it's been a great experience.
Oh, thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. And I know loads of people are super excited about this one. So thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. So yeah, I've been creating biotopes, like I said, for a while now. I don't create so many these days, but the reason I was creating so many was actually for practical fish keeping, and they were kind of, yeah, we want you to do some aquascaping, but let's make it more interesting, do biotopes. And I actually found that whole learning process, because I had to research the fish, research the habitats. I think I used fishbase.org, remember that?
Fishbase, yeah.
It's still going,
Seriously
isn't it?
Fish.
Seriously
Fish. Good one.
So these are really good resources online that you can use to gather data to get the relevant information: water chemistry, temperatures, plants, general ecology, you know, and all that good stuff. So if you do want to create your own biotopes, then those are good resources, aren't they?
I would say even try sites like ResearchGate. There's lots of scientific articles on there. Some of them you can't access publicly, but some you can.
Yeah.
So if you just type in, you know, neon tetra habitat PDF, you might get a scientific article about those fish and that habitat.
Wow.
done by proper academics.
Interesting.
You can check them out.
Awesome.
So we're doing a biotope that's based on habitat I know very well, which is the Rio Sucuri in the state of Mato Grosso do Sul in Brazil.
Okay.
And it's a sort of highland stream. It's what's called a karst stream. So it's fed by underground springs that come up through a limestone bedrock, bubble through the substrate, through the rock, and create a crystal clear river system, at least for the first kilometres.
Yeah.
And because the water is so transparent, there's tropical sunshine comes down, you get loads of aquatic plants, and a lot of these rivers are visited by eco-tourists and quite well known within Brazil, but outside they're not quite so well known. So I thought, well, we can try and popularise that place with a biotope from it.
Exactly. And how long were you in Brazil for?
So the last trip I was there for 3 years. When I went to do my Masters, I was studying fishes in the Pantanal, but I was also doing some research in the region where this biotope is based. But I've been visiting Brazil since 2007 and been able to see various different habitats and regions, and it's a place I know quite well now. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time, hundreds of hours basically, floating around swamps and rivers and lakes and in streams, and that's given me quite an insight into lots of these habitats.
Can you name any kind of particular highlights that you enjoyed? Is there any particular moment maybe that sticks out?
Definitely. So one of them is being in a karst river like this.
What's it called, karst river, by the way?
It's the bedrock. It's the rock formation is called karst.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
And I'm sort of drifting along, and I see this sort of log type thing, and I'm like, what's this? And I put my head under, and I realised it's a great big anaconda.
Oh my gosh.
And she was just kind of chilling out there.
How big?
Only about 3 meters, but in the water that feels a lot bigger.
Big enough.
And just really cool to be, you know, next to such an amazing animal. And then in the Pantanal, particularly in the Sloba River, snorkeling with freshwater stingrays quite a lot. You know, finding jaguar prints along the banks when I'm looking at Echinodorus plants, and then there's a jaguar print, and so I think moments like that. And just things like being on a riverbank at night and there's fireflies and Milky Way above you, and you shine your torch on the water, and there's caiman and there's fish cruising around hunting at night, and all those moments are special.
That sounds so beautiful, like being so immersed in nature.
Yeah. So we need to start really with our hardscape.
Substrate.
Sorry. So we are using
Tropica substrates. So we were considering using soil, but when we looked at the biotope footage, there isn't real soil, is it? It's just mixture of sands. So we tried to replicate that. In fact, we have supplied the sands for us as well, and we'll talk more about those in more detail. So in terms of what you actually saw in the
biotope, in the habitat,
What's it called, the river again?
the Sukuri River, which means the Anaconda River.
Ah, right. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what does it look like?
So it's very pale substrate in much of it, a mix of sort of almost white to grey to beige sands, and then areas of darker substrate, often fine sand, and it's just a mix of organic material, ground down stone, and lots of tiny snail shells, which also get crushed up.
Yeah.
And this sand is being turned over all the time by lots of fish that grub through the sand foraging.
Yeah.
And so that acts as a sort of way of sifting through it, and you're left with this really interesting mix of gradients and colours, and that will change with the flow of the water. If there's suddenly a stronger current after rain, that'll mix up the sands. There's areas with some leaf litter around. So it's quite diverse, but surprisingly pale substrate. People always think of, quite dark, murky, but not like that at all.
Interesting. So this product is designed to be used as a nutrient-rich base layer, as opposed to the Tropica soil, which is a complete substrate. So we put this at the bottom, and I've deliberately not put any towards the front of the aquarium, so when we put our sand in, we don't see that dark area, and it looks a little bit unnatural. So we can leave the front area clear there. We want about a centimetre layer, so that's 1 2.5 litre bag of the Tropica substrate. And now for extra nutrients, because we do have a lot of heavy root feeding plants, and if you did subscribe to the newsletter, you'll have a bit of a preview of what those species will be. And I did have some capsules somewhere. There we are.
Down there, yeah.
So we're only going to use 5 capsules, but top tip, we can actually open them up. Do you want to do a couple? If you open up the shell, and you can just sprinkle them evenly across the base, and that's just going to help feed the plants even more.
So basically in this habitat, where you have plants, you don't have a lot of wood. The reason for that is where you have shaded areas and plants can't grow, that's near the forest. So where you've got plants, you don't have overhanging trees, therefore you don't have a lot of wood, unless you have an entire tree that's fallen into the river.
Okay. Down here so we can see.
Yeah.
So these are screwed in suction caps. This wood does want to float quite considerably, so in order to avoid that, we've got these suction caps.
We need to clear
just to get some of these. Yeah. So it's a mixture of 2 different types of sand. One is elderly.
We've got the
Cimarron
sand and the Heaven sand from Wio, so which is a much lighter, whiter sand. And then the Cimarron has got small granules of and larger granules of sand.
A mixture of size granules.
Yeah, slightly rockier texture to it.
Yeah. And the idea of mixing it is it just creates an even more naturalistic appearance. And this is something that's kind of what you saw in the river, right?
Yep.
We just need to make sure there's enough sand to plant into. So there's probably an inch or so. We probably need a little bit more, Tai, I'd say. Are we gonna leave the front area?
That's going to be planted.
That's going to be fully planted.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit more sand.
So a bit more then. Yeah. So this is Hydrocotyle verticillata. Have you seen this growing in the wild?
Yeah, lots of it.
And is it carpet like mad?
Meters and meters and meters and meters of it.
And does it look like the mushrooms like we see in aquascaping, or is it different?
It looks, pretty much similar.
Okay.
It'll just covered in detritus and algae is the main difference.
So this is actually in Tropica's potted range. It's an advanced category plant, so it will need good light, which we've got here with the Wio Bamboo 70. It's actually 70 watts, so more than enough for this shallow tank. We'll talk more about the brightness later, because that's important for some of the reds, isn't it? And yeah, we're going to plant basically a full-on carpet around here.
Yeah.
So let's start doing that now. I've got some tweezers for you.
Thank you.
So let's see if I can remember the full name of this one. Halanthium bolivianum quadricostatus, I think.
Very good.
Yeah. This is actually easy, and it's actually a bit of a brute. I don't know if you've used this in you have used it now. I know you have. And it carpets really quickly. It's almost like a giant version of Halanthium tenellum, and it sends out runners prolifically. In fact, you can see a runner there, and it will quite quickly take over your aquascape if you're not careful. So do keep it in check. Easy plant. Doesn't necessarily need CO2 injection or high levels of lighting. But as with all aquarium plants, you'll get much better results if you use CO2 injection. It's safe to say we're using some cultivars today, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about those in more detail later. But some of the plants that you saw in nature aren't actually readily available in the hobby.
So the main plant, I think in the photo that Tomas showed earlier, is Echinodorus macrophyllus. This is a really large Amazon sword plant. It is a brute, it gets very big. Under high light, it can get these lovely red and pink shades to it.
Right.
Depending on the light levels and flow and nutrients, it can be quite variable. It's not really commonly found in the hobby.
Right.
So we've used some cultivars to mimic different stages of the plant.
Oh, okay.
You know, when it's slightly more green, when it's slightly more pink, when
And they've
it's
got
bigger,
similar
smaller.
leaf shape, similar growth pattern.
More or less, it's.
Yeah.
We have to use some artistic license, but this is something I think is really important when people want to do a biotope. It's not to get too hung up on having exactly the right plant species or exactly the right fish species. If you've got, you know, you do your research and there's something you can't get hold of,
Yeah.
there's no shame in using a substitute.
Yeah.
You know, it's unreasonable to
No one's going to like shoot
give
you or
up
anything,
because
are they?
you
Yeah.
can't find that species.
No.
And I think that's really important for people to remember.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be having fun. You're supposed to be creating something
Yeah.
beautiful that you're going to enjoy, and you know, don't get too worried about
Being too accurate.
too accurate. And there's quite a lot of plant species out there that do suit a biotope.
This is Echinodorus reni or reni. How would you say it?
I say reni, but I may be completely wrong.
Reni. It's a beautiful. It's actually an easy category, and it will potentially stay red even in low light, but more light you'll get a more red coloration.
Yeah.
It doesn't get too big. How tall would you say this will get?
I think it's about 25 to 30
So it
centimeters.
May get to the surface.
Yeah, it may even rise slightly above the lip of the tank.
And top tip, to make planting easier, I just tear off the roots, like so. So you have about 2 centimeters of roots there. That's going to make planting much easier. Put that to one side, chuck those away. Then we have Echinodorus aquatica.
Aquatica.
Do apologise. Told you I was rubbish with my Echinodorus.
Well, you know.
And again, this will actually. How tall does this one grow?
That's a good question.
It's a cultivar, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's also about 25 centimeters.
So we will potentially get some leaves trying to get through the surface.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. It isn't that humid in here, so I do wonder if we might struggle a little bit. But we could actually fit a fogger unit or a mister
Or
in
you
the
could
future.
just prune leaves that do emerge above the surface. So
Oh, and we can promote the compact growth.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in the rivers there, you get fluctuating water levels. So mostly, it's maybe between 1.5 meters to 2 meters deep. But perhaps in the dry season, this can fall considerably. Other environmental changes can affect it. So here we're doing a sort of snapshot of the river at its lowest and shallowest point.
Yeah. And for those that were really struggling with that hydrocotyle verticillata question, you can find the answer on the Tropica website. So this is Echinodorus, I'm going to get it wrong again, Paleifolius. Is this another cultivar?
So this isn't a cultivar. This gets quite tall. Again, the underwater leaves can get quite broad.
Okay.
It will happily grow up and out of the surface. And again, we're using it as a stand-in for Echinodorus macrophyllus in its perhaps slightly larger form.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we're using this blend of 3 different species to simulate the different stages of one species that we can't get hold of.
Oh, getcha.
And
I
that's
understand. Perfect.
Artistic license, but we're trying to recreate something
We're trying to recreate
that looks more or
the
less
aesthetics of
exactly.
the nature. Okay, I've got a question I can answer here. Oblivious End. Do you guys have any tips for a newbie at aquascaping? Yes, I would consider your budget and consider how much time you have to spare, and try to buy the highest quality that you can afford, and don't go necessarily too big and kind of blow your budget, and it'll cost you loads to plant it and kit it out and take you a lot of time to maintain it. So go for something maybe relatively small, like a 60 centimetre.
Yeah.
And but the biggest thing is have fun, but do a bit of research. Start off with easy plants so you'll succeed, you'll get confidence. You might even want to copy an aquascape or be inspired by an aquascape, nothing wrong with copying. Get your confidence levels up, and then you can kind of take it, use your own creativity, and with each iteration get a little bit better. But the biggest thing is have fun, practice, and enjoy it. Any tips from you?
I would say your point about copying is really good. And you know, it's many of my earliest biotopes were imitations of things that you'd done, and that set me down the path that I'm on now.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in doing it. And if it looks kind of like what you were hoping for, great. If it looks a bit different, that's fine too.
Yeah.
You learn and adapt, and it's perfectly fine to be inspired by other people and try and mimic them. That's actually flattering.
Yeah, and if you want to be inspired by aquascapes, Tropica have an inspiration page. So I think there's, how many, we did do a quiz on this, how many, 120, 122, I think, aquascapes now on the Tropica inspiration page. A diverse range of styles of aquascapes, obviously diverse range of plants, levels of easiness, tank sizes, something for everyone. Let's talk about the fish, Tai.
Can handle a huge variety of parameters.
So what fish are we going to put in here?
So we're going to use a very well-known little fish, which is a tetra, which is the Serpe tetra, Hyposebricon equis.
Equis, yeah.
Which is bright red little fish, has a massive distribution across South America.
Okay.
Cis-Andean South America, so to the east of the Andes. It's my supervisor's favourite fish, which is one of the reasons we have to use it, but it's also one of my favourite fishes. And it's a fish that's encountered in this habitat. It's really easy. They have a reputation as fin nippers. This is normally when they're kept in small groups with other species. These fish are always trying to establish a hierarchy within the group. Once they've established that hierarchy, who's boss, which they will do by nipping each other's fins and chasing each other around, they will look at whoever else is in the tank and see, well, we need to see who's in charge now. And they may chase other fish around. But if you keep a large group of them, particularly if you have a larger tank, there's always a new challenger to the hierarchy. There's always someone trying to be the boss.
Yeah.
And so the attention stays within the group. They will just keep trying to nip each other, chase each other around, and they will leave other fish alone. In this tank, because we're only using a small group of them.
How many?
I think
8, 10?
6 in here.
6?
It's, yeah, you either see them in quite large groups along the bank or in the open water amongst plants. You see little groups of maybe 3 to 6 of them kind of cruising around at the base of plants and in denser cover.
Any invertebrates? Any shrimp? Snails?
Yeah, so lots of snails that I don't know enough about to tell you what they are. The shrimp there are mostly sort of glass shrimp, river shrimp.
Right.
Locally they're known as pitu. And you see them at night. If you go with a torch near the riverbank at night, that's when they're out there, when they're active. There's also small crayfish that we find there. And sometimes there are fish that have almost rabbits-like teeth and molars, and they'll catch these crayfish, and you're in the water, and you can hear this like crunch, crunch, and as these fish have caught one, and they're just like grinding it down.
Oh, wow.
So you do see shrimp. They're not available in the hobby, as well as the snails, but you could always put some Amano shrimp in and pretend they're river shrimp.
Yeah.
That would be
they look similar, don't they?
Totally fine, and they would also help you with your tank maintenance.
Let's talk about maintenance. So, usual thing for me, big frequent water changes at the start. We are going to be adding CO2 because we've got lots of light. If we don't add CO2 to a tank with lots of light, we just get algae.
Yep.
So we need to balance the light and CO2. Lots of frequent water changes. I'd be using, I probably wouldn't necessarily use a liquid fertiliser from day one on this because these are all potted plants. They have a big nutrient store already in them. And so we could probably start adding the fertilisers after the first week or two. Keep an eye on the plants. If they start to show yellow growth or pale growth, then maybe add some fertilisers then for sure. I'd have the light on for probably 6 hours to start with, maybe going up to 8 hours in the longer term. But tank like this, really easy to maintain. It's very shallow, doesn't hold much water particularly. 50% water change isn't going to take too long. Really easy to trim. We all need to do a lot of trimming in this. Lots of especially the Helanthium.
I think one of the things is initially your sword plants, so they've got their immersed leaves right now,
the
various echinodoros. Some of those will die off as the new submersed, the underwater leaves emerge.
Yeah.
So people who are new to this plant might go, oh, my plant's dying. If plants go yellow, if they start to sort of fall apart, the leaves, chop them off, and that will also allow the plant to give energy to the new growth and to adapt to its now submersed state. So don't panic if leaves are turning yellow and sort of disintegrating. Cut them off and give your plant the energy it needs. The Helanthium will go quite mad, but one of the reasons I've mixed it in with the hydrocotyle is because I see it that way in the wild, but also the hydrocotyle will prevent the Helanthium from taking over every square inch of space. They're both quite dominant, so they'll butt up against each other, and that'll create a nice sort of matrix, a mosaic across the tank substrate, and also keep the Helanthium in check a little bit.
You were saying a really nice thing yesterday because we were in the greenhouse, and you were saying like when you see the Tropica pot in the store, you now know the people that are behind it, and that's quite a powerful thing, isn't it?
Radu introduced me to 2 members of staff yesterday who are the 2 members of staff who tie all the plants onto decor, onto wood or rock. So now every time I see Tropica plants on wood or rock in a shop, I'll be like, well, I know who did that 900 miles away, and I know where that story started, and now it's here and it's going to go into a customer's tank.
And some of the employees here have been here for like 40 years plus. And some of them went on the original X-beds with Holger.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I used to take them to see the natural habitats. So let's hopefully go with our CEO. He can take us maybe.
Yeah. Well, we need to go out. I've said.
I know Lars is watching, so.
All right, Lars. Well, next year, May, all expenses. No, I definitely want to take the team to the Rio Sucuri. The team from the Rio Sucuri, which is an eco-tourist destination, have said we're more than welcome to come. Do a research and development trip. They'd be happy to host us.
Wow.
And there's scientists and friends out there who could take us to all sorts of amazing planted habitats.
We can discover some new plants.
Yeah, we could try and introduce things to the hobby and inspire people with images and photos out there and say, look, you can do this if you have the plants, and this is how to go about it. So no pressure, but yeah.
Even if we don't, we'll do it Tropica, we'll do it for the book anyway.
Well, yeah, we definitely need trips for the book.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so it's time to wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Looking at this camera. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Tai for coming again.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks to all the Tropica team, Radu, Thomas, Jonas, all the sales team, all the managers, everyone. It's been a real group effort, this Tropica Live. It's not just me and the guests, trust me. Thank you to WEO, of course, for sponsoring the beautiful aquarium, cabinet, lighting, substrate and hardscape materials. Don't forget to subscribe to the Tropica newsletter. If you go on Instagram, it's the link in the bio. You can go on tropica.com and it's on the landing page, really easy to do, and you'll get notified about future Tropica Live events. Next one is in December. You might be able to guess what it is. I might sing Jingle Bells, I might give them a clue, but I won't. But yeah, it's going to be a good fun one, a good family one. So if you do have family, children, it's really one to get them involved with as well. Don't forget to follow all of the Tropica Live updates. So all the aquariums we've created so far. So we've done the classic nature aquarium in the Awase Starline 85. We've done the Brazilian Aquascape in the Awase Scaper Line 90. And now, of course, we've done the Brazilian Biotope in the WEO Vistas 75F. And we will be doing regular update videos on all of these aquascapes for the Tropica YouTube channel. So make sure you are subscribed and click that bell so you get notified every time we upload a new video. We are still doing the Tropica plant profiles as well. We'll be doing more cinematics and also aquarium tips videos. So make sure you are subscribed to us. Finally, follow us on all our social media channels, Instagram and Facebook at Tropica Aquarium Plants. If you want to have a chance of getting your content featured, use the hashtag #MadeWithTropica. And if you want to, I think that's it. Oh, Tropica Live, if you've been inspired by anything we've done here, any of the Tropica Live aquascapes, use the hashtag Tropica Live. I think that's it.
Yeah, sounds like.
I had such good fun, that went so quickly.
It did go fast, but time flies when you're having fun.
Thanks, mate. Let's go down the pub.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll go and have a drink.
Cheers. Take care, everyone. See you on the next one. Hope you enjoyed it.